Welcome to the Sessions with Sessions podcast. I'm your host John, and we're a group of riders from Sudbury, Ontario. Talk about riding. It's fat biking time now, so we're talking about a lot of fat biking. It's a Christmas season, so we talked about that last week. And today we're back, guys. It's cool to have you guys back. Now with the super new mics, and you guys are all hooked up and
it's very professional around here now, so I really feel I'm out of my element a little bit.
I know, I'm totally feeling out class here.
Just a bit, eh? Just a bit.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Beavers running around breaking everything.
Podcast. Pretty much. I broke it, the whole place.
Pretty well. So it's episode number 28, guys. Today we're going to chat about the Fat Bike Essential Kit. But before we get into that, we do have some questions. We're just chatting. Usually we put it out there to you guys. We put it out there on Instagram before we start. But we had a couple good ones, so we figured we're going to roll with these ones. We were chatting with Brian, and Brian's pretty new to fat biking. It's his first year. He's a mountain biker, but he's kind of just getting into the fat bike. Just got his first bike, and now he's kind of thinking about what he needs, which is going to be a good lead into today's conversation. Yeah. However, he was wondering armor. He heard me chatting about armor with fat biking, and if it's something that we all use. Do you guys use armor when you're on your fat bike?
No, not even a little bit.
I don't either, but I will say that last season, like my first couple rides, right after it kind of iced over a little, I actually took a wipeout and wish I had some armor on. So I think early season it might not be a bad idea to dust off your mountain bike armor and put it on. I think later, once there's snow and you're on the trails and it's snowy, it's when you fall, it's just fluffy.
Yeah.
It's not bad. But early season, when there's a lot of ice and exposed rock still, sure.
I think it's the ice is the big kicker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially, so right now, you think a lot about people just getting into fat biking. They're just getting in, just trying out these bikes for the first time. There is no studded tires available. It's really hard to get, especially a lot of the bikes we're receiving now are 27.5, so it's a different tire size, and the 27.5 fat bike tires are almost non-existent. If you don't have a studded 27.5 fat bike tire right now, everything's glare ice. It's gonna be like a skating rink, right?
It is.
So having that, if you have something, it's something to protect yourself. I think this time of year it's mostly hips and elbows, right? More than anything. I have a set of these Alpine Stars hip. They're like a hip pad with a little bit of quad protection, but they're also padded short. If I'm being honest with you, I'm going to wear those probably for the first month of riding. I don't want to slam on the side of my hip. I fell once on my hip this year, and that was pretty well lit.
Trying to get my the stuff that I have armor-wise to fit on winter gear is going to be tricky, but
maybe just layer it underneath, I suppose.
Yeah, but I tend to wear fairly tight stuff, so if I'm going to do armor under one layer, it's going to be I'm going to have to go over that.
In that awkward between layer kind of zone.
Yeah, and then it kind of restricts the movement when I'm pedaling, because mostly it's going to be knee pads that I would wear, maybe some elbow pads, but I just find that you get too much on that's too tight, and then it's
that's
weird,
an interesting point.
Weird pedaling.
This time of year too, if you think about it, most of the riding we're doing, a lot of the trails aren't open yet, so we're riding a lot of gravel trails, stuff like that, and that's where your efficiency does come into play a little more, right?
Yeah, and I find too, just because it is a different way of riding, you try and stay away from the edges. Your cornering is not so slick, or well, I guess it would be slick, but you can't really take tight corners and with a lot of speed. It's something I've never really considered, but it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think some kind of armor, and I think that's something that was a big realization for myself this summer. It's just more armor. I think there's something to it. Whether or not what the best armor is for the winter, we'll figure that out later. But It's not a bad idea. So good to answer Brian. I think on this, I think we're all in the same boat. That's not a bad idea. I generally speaking recommend if someone ever says the word armor, I go yep, because I don't want to be the guy to say no.
Yeah,
no, it's a terrible idea and hit a tree.
Yeah.
But that is that question. He had a follow-up question. He had another good one too. So if you're out riding, so now obviously we're using skull caps, stuff like that underneath our helmets, or we're using a winter style helmet. How do we keep our foreheads warm?
Yeah,
I use his forehead. So the distance between maybe his glasses or anything he's wearing and the actual helmet itself.
I use my Ninja Suit hood, and I just pull it down. And if I need more than that, It's pretty much just I achieve that with buffs, like what we talked about last year, like a glorified tube sock. Yeah.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think part of it though is just getting acclimatized to the weather too. Like, usually this eyebrows down to your chin takes all of the weather, regardless of what it is. And he was saying kind of like above his eyebrows and below his hairline is where he was cold. And I think that probably either having a tighter fitting skull cap or making sure that it was pulled, kind of down to the areas that always take weather. That would be the one thing I would look at. Because like now, we've gone from hot, cold. We haven't really had a chance to get accustomed to stuff yet. And I think that it's likely just that period between being comfortable with your face exposed and...
That's true too. There's a lot of climatization going on.
Yeah.
I have this really nice, it's just a balaclava, but it's got a hinge on it. So it hinges all the way back to like the back part of the jaw. So you can pull it down and then it's like just really a hood and you can pull it up. The nice thing is it comes down pretty low on your head. So in those cold days where I found my forehead getting a little cold, that does it. But you're right. There is something to the climatizing as well. Like, I think you're onto something there.
Yeah, we talk about that, like that, start cold, be bold kind of stain, right?
Yeah.
It sort of always makes sense, right?
10-degree rule.
Yeah, you're gonna warm up. So, I mean, within reason, obviously, you don't want to underdress so much that you are freezing, but starting a little cold is never a bad thing as long as you can warm up a little while you're riding.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us into our topic today, guys. So today we're going to talk about, and the reason we're going to talk about this is because people are getting their fat bikes now. Hopefully, if you hear this and you get really upset, we're hoping you're going to get one at some point. Now fat bikes are starting to come out. We're starting to see a trickle come in. We actually have started a list now in the shop finally, so you can get your name on a list, and when a bike comes in, you'll get a call from us. Disclaimer, we can't hold bikes, but you will get a call. But now with the bikes starting to come in, you got a lot of people like Brian that are starting to get into this, and they don't really know what to get themselves into. They're a little uncertain. What do they need? What are the top 10 things they need to get into it? Now, we will, guys. There is a lot of time between now and the summer. We're gonna cover all these different things, like different tires and different nitty gritty stuff in a lot more detail. Amazing, Evan.
I'm awesome.
So
just continue.
Yeah, we're not gonna cut that.
No.
We're going to cover all this stuff in a lot more detail in more podcasts to come. However, what we want to do with this podcast is give everyone an overarching idea of what they should look to pick up in the first couple weeks after picking up a fat bike, and just some little tips and ideas, because things like Brian had mentioned with his forehead getting cold, or whether you should wear armor or not. There's a lot of little things like that can make your initial experiences on that fat bike a lot easier. So we've all kind of picked out a couple things that we kind of can bring up and chat with you guys about. If you guys have questions, as always, we want you guys to reach out. We want you guys to message us, and if you want us to get a little nitty gritty about the stuff, we have no problem doing that. But for starters, Evan, since you spilled water all over yourself, why don't you follow that up with an awesome idea for someone the first time getting into fat bike, and what do they need?
Well, I've got. I won't get this one yet. I'll start with the Gators.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about Gators last week
Yeah.
on the Christmas episode. Why are they so important?
They just keep snow out of your boots. Even if you're riding in not very deep snow and you step off the edge of the trail, it doesn't seem it's going to go over the top of your boot, but it does.
Right.
And the treads pull up snow and it just sits in your ankles and it makes your feet wet, and it's a miserable time if it's kind of cold, and nobody wants wet feet or ankles. So there's that, and it also kind of adds an extra layer of insulation too and windbreaking. So if you're trying to dress light but you're not sure about how light to go, having this as an extra layer, it kind of traps air between, so it warms up the air, blocks wind. I don't know, they're good to keep your feet dry and keep the bottom part of your leg warm. The ones that I have go just below your knee, so between that and a pair of shorts, I'm pretty much covered in one.
Those milder conditions, right? You almost don't need the full pant.
No, you don't.
No, and it's something that you'll start to hear us talk about more, especially as we talk about fat biking. The trail height is a big factor. So as the season goes on, you pack more and more trail down. As you can imagine, people walking outside over one section of trail over and over. The snow beside the trail isn't packed down. So as you're riding, you might think that snow is maybe sitting a little higher than the trail, but when your foot touches it, it goes super deep because it's not packed. So sometimes it's almost like you're riding up on a tall skinny, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that trail can be, a foot, 2 feet higher than the ground beside it, even though the ground beside it looks higher. And that's what the Gator, I think, makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and sometimes you end up having to push your bike for whatever reason, and the trail isn't wide enough to get beside your bike to push it. And, you don't want to be pushing your bike through deep snow, but at the same time, if you don't have Gators, you don't want to be walking through deep snow either. So,
Yeah, no,
it solves that issue.
Yeah, I think Gators is key, probably the number one, especially if you're not coming from a winter sport where you've used them before, I don't know, maybe telemark skiing or backcountry skiing, right? Not a lot of people have a pair kicking around necessarily. So it's
How long have you had yours kicking around for years?
I've had mine kicking around since university, man.
2-3 years ago or what?
Yeah, just a couple of years, they're 25-year-old Gators from Mountain Nakuma Co-op. They still work really well.
They're incredible.
Yeah.
They're puffy, and they're not as slim fit as those Black Diamond ones.
No.
But
They're definitely not nearly as nice, but it was this is the 1990s, man. Everything was big.
Pizza grocery bag taped around.
That's what they look like. Yeah. I will add to that. Gators do make you feel like a superhero, and I said this last week, and I'll say this again. There's no more awesome feeling than strapping a Gator to your leg, and you feel like it's go time.
Oh,
You're just that little bit more invincible.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Beavers, what you got? What's your first one? What's the number one thing someone going fat
I'm going to call this category something to put your shit in. So basically, it's a variety of items. So there's things like you could go with a backpack. I'm a backpack guy, so I'll grab the backpack first. But not everyone is a backpack guy. But I really love a backpack. You can put a lot of stuff in it. It's got hydration built in, although sometimes that freezes up a little if it gets too cold. So it's not ideal in the winter, I will say, for hydration. But I like to carry a little first aid kit, in case my buddies get in trouble. So I like a backpack because you can put more stuff in it, and it's right there in the back. It also has, a top zip, so super convenient for holding my battery for the light. So there's just a lot of advantages to a backpack. So I love a backpack. Whatever you've got, you probably have one kicking around the house, so you don't have to buy it. But if you want to, there's lots of good ones available.
Yeah, a lot of people are even using a hip pack now. Anything that's strapping on your back, just something to throw stuff in.
And they're good to throw a layer into.
Yeah. What are you putting in your backpack? Why are people carrying storage?
Well, even just a tube. If you don't ride tubeless for a fat bike, which is a whole other conversation we could probably get into another time. I think we did it last year. We can do it again.
We're gonna run it back.
Yeah. But tubes for fat bikes are big. It's not like a mountain biking tube. So it's nice to have that. I put a first aid kit, got multi-tool. I like to insulate some water in there, so you might have a thermos. So there's a lot of stuff that you put in there. And carry
even
around.
your layers, right? That's another thing
layers,
too. You just need a place if you're gonna strip
For
layers,
sure.
you're gonna bring an extra gloves.
Yeah.
It's a good place to have stuff. So what else you put in? If you don't want to run a backpack, I am not a backpack guy. You'll
Yeah.
never convince me to wear a backpack.
So then the frame bag is a nice option. So this one here is a Blackburn frame bag. It's going to strap right underneath the frame. It's a larger one, so not like the ones that go underneath the seat. Those are great for summer. But if you're going to be in the fat bike, you're going to need, like you said, more stuff, right? You want to stuff a layer in there, maybe a tube, some other things.
That
frame
basically
bags are
fills
nice
up the
option.
entire void in between your bike,
for
between
sure.
the tubes, right?
Yeah.
Evan, you have one of these.
I do. I have that exact one, except in black, and it
Yeah.
unzips at the bottom there, so it makes it even bigger.
Yeah.
I was never ever a frame bag kind of person until I started riding a fat bike, and they are just the handiest thing.
For sure.
Even my regular summer water bottle stays it has yet to
insulated in
freeze.
there, right?
Yeah, it is yet to freeze. I got a pump in there, my inner tube, multi-tool, my water layer, snacks. I don't know, and there's still room.
Yeah.
And you don't even notice it. You're not carrying it. It's not in the way. You're riding a fat bike. The weight's minimal. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're super handy.
For sure. And then, here's the difference. So I like backpack, so I don't necessarily need to have this, but if you like a frame bag, then maybe you want something like these Bib Pants. So there's a pair of Bib Pants here. that have like super handy pockets up at the top of the bib.
You need them. You need pockets under your bib.
Like,
Yeah.
because you're going to put a light, like your light battery, like where are you going to put that if you're not running a frame bag?
If you're running, and like I think there
Or
may be some
backpack,
lights coming
yeah.
in a minute, like
Right.
but like you need some place to put that battery.
Yeah.
And I mean
Sure.
it's a good opportunity for us to kind of chat about it. I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to go into talk about lights, but
Sure.
a big thing on the lights is the external battery, and without a place to put it, so we run oftentimes our sessions jackets, which have 3 road pockets in the back. Sometimes I'll even wear a road jersey underneath
Yeah.
a bigger jacket.
Yeah.
You need something because the cables don't oftentimes go long enough that what you could run it inside of like a pant pocket.
Right.
You need something that's resting on your back or a backpack or
Yeah.
something like that to run to hold that battery.
And ideally keeping your battery warm. That's my
Yeah.
I just say that every single time we talk about lights, but keeping your battery warm preserves the life of the battery. It makes it last longer, and
Hey, go out there
Yeah.
riding more.
yeah. And who doesn't want that?
Right. And in general, I mean, these bib pants, you couldn't go wrong. Like, I think we were talking about these last week. Like,
I know.
some company from California invented, like, the perfect fat bike bib pant. Like,
Doesn't make
I
any
don't know.
sense.
But, man, I don't know. Maybe it's Northern California. I don't know what they're expecting over there, but
But it's
pretty
pretty
awesome.
good, right?
It's
It's a
pretty
good pant. Like having a fat bike specific pant makes a difference, but having
Yeah.
something that's got that extra storage in the back,
Yeah.
I think you kind of nailed it. I think storage is probably key for anyone trying to get in the sport, especially your first times out. You're just trying to figure out how to layer. You're just
Yeah.
trying to figure out what you need to bring with you. You're gonna make a lot of mistakes. When in doubt, bring more shit.
Yeah.
Right?
For
But
sure.
you need a place to put the shit. So
because you're
it's
not
the best
moving
thing.
super fast. So, like, the weight, like, I think we've said that before a little bit. Like, I mean, unless you're racing, like, the weight's not really that
No, it doesn't
much
make a
of
difference.
It's not
no,
a big,
especially not your first time out, especially
No,
not on the fat bike.
you're
You're
just
just
like-
you're just trying to make yourself
survive.
comfortable. The best way to make yourself comfortable, have enough stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The last option, I'll just real quick, this super awesome vest. If you're, say you're like a snowboarder and a fat biker, this is a sweet vest.
Nettie
You can,
brought
like-
us onto those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool one. It's
Yeah.
it's the Brian Gucci Slack vest
Yeah.
from Volcom, and it's a super utility vest with like all sorts of pockets in the front. More pockets, I guess, is really where it's at.
Yeah,
Just more
it's all-
pockets
it's
for
all
more
pockets.
stuff.
More snacks in there. Front snack
snacks.
pockets that like, you can just get those anytime you want.
More
Everyone wants a
snacks.
good snack.
Every time Bernetti shows up in that thing, I'm just a little bit jealous.
Oh man,
Just a
me
little.
I
too,
love that
man.
jacket.
And a little bit
Oh.
intimidated.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit
Yeah,
intimidated.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Awesome. So Evan, the lights here. So we're carrying
Yeah.
lights in our back pocket. Why are we carrying lights in our back pocket?
Well, I mean, your hours for riding are dramatically reduced, and if you're only relying on like daylight, if you're riding in the winter, and to be honest, it's almost nicer riding at night on a fat bike. You know, the stars are out. You're riding across a lake. It's sometimes if the lighting is right, you can shut your headlight off and just ride by the moonlight. And it, you know, I don't want to over romanticize it, but it's pretty
Sounds
cool.
like you're having a little moment over there.
I am.
All to himself.
Yeah, no, it's nice to have a light, be able to ride through the bush at night. I don't know, it extends your ability to ride from I don't know what 6-8 hours to.
Yeah, but the day's getting shorter, right? The day's
Yeah.
getting
Right.
shorter. Like we ride at 6:30 in the morning. It's dark. I leave here in the evenings. It's also dark. Like you have to have lights. You just have to. There's no way around it. You can't. Like even the thing about the Walden group rides where they back it up to 6 o'clock so that it's by 6 o'clock we can still get enough riding in before it gets dark. No, it's dark at 6. It's dark at 6:30. It doesn't matter. It's dark all the time. You need a light.
Yeah.
Right? And you need one with enough lumens. The nice thing is in the winter, and we did a whole podcast on lights, guys. I recommend you look at it. But you don't need as much light in the winter because the snow reflects a lot of light, so it gets a lot brighter. However, if you're going to buy a light, get a good one.
Yeah.
So a lot of the good ones do run an external battery, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and having that external battery, I mean, it makes it easy to change. You don't have to fiddle with like opening a little compartment and trying to like dig out other batteries and shove them in. You can just like unplug one and plug in another one, like just a cord.
Yeah,
That's
and
it.
there's not as much weight on your head. I think we're all using lights here.
Yeah.
We're all using the lights with an external battery.
Yeah,
So battery storage, and I'm going to combo on what you guys are saying here with my idea. A freaking helmet. So
oh, hey, there's a good idea.
now, obviously we want helmets. Obviously helmets are important. However, this is something that we've kind of been talking about more recently than ever. If you're going to use a snow helmet, which is what a lot of people think, hey man, it's winter, I'm going to use my snow helmet. Now a snow helmet is obviously going to be very warm.
Yeah.
Now, I've never really had an issue with one of these with just like a thin beanie on the inside, a thin helmet liner. But the big thing about a summer helmet is you can strap a light to it. right?
Yep.
Like you think about like a winter helmet, you can't strap lights to them. All the holes are filled. Oftentimes there's mesh, there's insulation and stuff. The amount of times I've had conversations with people lately where they can't strap their helmet-mounted light to their helmet. So now they have a snow helmet. They bought themselves a helmet light, or they bought themselves even a bar-mounted light. They want to upgrade their light. They can't upgrade their light until they upgrade their helmet. You just got to make sure you get the right helmet to begin with.
Yeah.
Even if you're someone who's maybe just getting into the sport and starting with fat biking, don't start with a winter helmet. Start with a summer helmet and then line under it accordingly. I think that makes a huge difference. I mean, there's going to be a whole other podcast just on helmets one day, guys. We'll get into the nitty-gritty on helmets, but making sure you have a helmet, making sure you have a proper helmet, and making sure that your helmet's going to work for what you're using it for. If it's in the winter, having a helmet maybe that you can fit a helmet liner underneath, right?
Yeah.
And making sure that you can stay warm, but also making sure that you can strap your light to it, I think is a huge feature.
Oh yeah, when I started fat biking, I did just multi-purpose winter sports helmet that I already had, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't go and buy it. I didn't want to buy a new helmet just for fat biking. I used basically an old Burton Red helmet that I had, and it was fine. But when I decided to change to my actual mountain bike helmet and just strap a light to it, it did change a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got vents in there, so all your heat's gonna come up through your head. So as you're moving, like you might be a little cold as you first go out, but like you're gonna get a lot warmer. I've never had a situation between wearing my helmet, wearing just a helmet liner, which is just kind of like a very thin beanie, and then if it's like minus 35, with my Ninja Suit hood over top, like it's no game changer. Again, it's no issues.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I haven't ever had an issue, and I've only ever had summer helmets.
Okay, Beavers, what do you got for us for your second item other than stuff to put shit in?
Yeah, well, I got a variety of chews, man, and hydration and whatever, because I think just nutrition in general, when you're in the wintertime, super important. You're going to get, I just find, you get cold, a little bit of food, just, it warms you up, and you feel, ready to go. More so than the summer. I don't eat a ton in the summer when I'm biking, but I do find in the wintertime, I like more snacks. Just go through more energy. You're putting out, keeping yourself warm just takes more. So whether it's you like Cliff Bar blocks or you want to go with the sweet honey stinger bar, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then I do like a little bit of extra electrolyte in in the summer, just water in my the bladder, because I never want to clean shit out of that. But I really like a little hydration mix in my water bottles. It's just keeps you going, right?
That Scratch stuff is dynamite.
Oh, this is I love Scratch Labs.
Yeah.
I can't. It's I find it much better than Gatorade. I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
it's
Gatorade's
supposed to
fine,
be cleaner, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot cleaner, and it's electrolyte specific.
Yeah.
It's a powder. You can buy the little small bags, and you can stash them in your frame bag, and then at least you always got them.
Oh, for sure. It's just, anyway, I just like a little extra nutrition. However you want to get that quick energy while you're riding in the wintertime. I just feel it's super important. So, and that's why all the pockets come in handy, man.
Yeah.
Just stash things in there. I'm gonna put this
candy,
in here.
More candy. It's important though, honestly, especially if you're going on these fat bike rides. If anything happens, you're out there for a longer distance. You're in the cold. Make sure you have something, some kind of food on you, some kind of nutrition on you. It's a good backup plan too, right?
For sure. Yeah, especially if you're gonna go if you're doing something where you're going point to point somewhere.
Yeah, well, a lot of people go lake riding. Right?
Yeah, you really need to be
lake
prepared.
And the other side,
yeah, you should not do that without being prepared for.
Yeah.
Be out there for a bit.
Yeah, you should always, especially if you're by yourself, you should always pack extra.
Yeah.
If you're planning on going 20 kilometers, pack like you're going 40.
Yeah, and bring matches or lighter. There's another thing you stick in your bag. I'm serious. Be prepared.
Yeah, mega prepared.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just biking in town, it doesn't matter, right?
No.
But if you're literally if you're going I know it's always been people's dream to connect, whatever, Sudbury to Killarney, something like that. You need to be prepared for something like that. It's
just in case.
Not a joke.
You prepare for the worst.
Yeah, and stuff gets real fast in the winter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. All right, Evan, you got a third one for us.
I do. I got pogies.
Oh, that's the good one.
Yeah, pogies are a game changer. They're right up there with the Gators. I don't know. I spent the first winter fat biking, cold feet, cold hands, and second winter I got pogies, and it was like a life changer. You didn't have to wear giant gloves that you couldn't get your brakes or your gears working with. You could wear mid-weight mitt or gloves, not mitts.
Which brings you to
I know.
my thing.
Look at that segue.
Look at this. I'm just piggybacking on you all day.
But yeah, the pogies are definite. I mean, these ones here, the wolf tooth, they are easily put on and taken off. So you don't, like I don't wear or use them every single ride. I kind of like only use them for the cold weather. But if I don't want them on, it's a very simple little snap. It just
They
clicks.
just unclip, right?
Yeah, it just clicks. There's like, it takes maybe 5 minutes to set them up initially, and then it's a 30-second install or uninstall. They're like super well designed.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, they click on and off super easy.
Yeah.
The nice thing about them, so the inside piece kind of mounts in your handlebar and stays in there, I would say semi-permanently.
Yeah.
And then the outside piece just kind of clips on and off. It makes it super, super easy, right? It just comes off and
Literally
on.
a twist.
Absolutely. There's a lot of pogies that I see from a lot of other brands, 45 North, bar mitts like that. You mount them on and they have to stay on. It's such a pain to take them off. And that's where I think a lot of people get a lot of hesitation with the pogies. They find, if they fall, whatever, if it's a situation they don't want the pogies on. But the nice thing with these guys, you just take them off.
And you can decide like minute to minute whether or not you're going to put them on for the ride. Like if you, I don't know, I bring them, and then when we get here and decide what we're wearing, I think, oh yeah, maybe I should use the pogies, and I'll just go out and get them from the truck and put them on.
Yeah, I just keep them in my bag, my warm-up bag. And then, like, the idea, I mean, I brought these guys up literally looking at, because you brought pogies up to the table. I was like, I'm going to bring these. I mean, we always talk about these 100% Briscoe gloves. This is the glove. This is the one. It's got just enough padding in it that on the cold gravel days in the spring and the fall, we can wear this. However, when you're in a pogie, this is like your minus 15, minus 20. Like that in a pogie, and it's such a thin glove.
It is.
It's funny, we were just talking with Brian about that. He was, we were chatting with him before we started the podcast, and he was asking, dexterity and stuff like that. How does he make sure with the glove? Well, you just get a thin glove. You get a glove that's got just enough padding that you can still feel your controls, and then you put a pogie over top. The pogie doesn't have to be thick. It doesn't have to be insulated. It just has to cut the wind. The insulation's on the glove, right? But not so much insulation that it's cumbersome.
Yeah. It's nice.
You don't use pogies, Beaver?
I don't use pogies, but I mean, it's not, I don't know. I think we talked about this last year at some point, right?
Yeah, Jimmy needs kayakers, don't you?
I came from a whitewater kayaking background, and I just I don't know, we just always toughed it out. I know some whitewater kayakers who use pogies, but mostly we made fun of sea kayakers who used them. So I was just like, whatever, I can't use those things. And I accomplished the same
So
thing.
you're just scared you're going to get made fun of?
No, I'm not actually anymore. I honestly, I would probably get them. I just haven't bothered. I haven't got them yet. But probably next time you see me
what?
up riding, I'll be wearing some pogies.
They're like Gators.
Yeah, they are.
But for your hands.
They're
But
like
for your hands.
I know.
You feel super cool.
Guys
with
are
the
selling
pogies
me on it. I know.
I know.
Listen, I'll probably get some. Right now, I accomplished the same thing with some good gloves and hand warmers on the cold days. But
So there's like something
you're
they always
selling-
say.
you're selling me on
it's,
it.
You want to make sure your feet are warm. You want to make sure your hands are warm.
Yeah.
You want to make sure it's feet, hands, and eyes. That's what we always said when we were skiing,
sure.
when you're snowboarding, right? You want to make sure you have good goggles. You want to make sure you have good gloves. You want to make sure you have good feet. That's why my next one, I got to get one here, guys.
Yeah,
I got glasses.
nice.
Glasses are my number one, and you guys will see me oftentimes running around the shop just with like clear sunglasses set on my head. It's because when we ride in the mornings, I literally must ride with glasses on.
Oh, for sure.
Even if it's pitch black out,
100%.
I need to have something over my eyeballs
Yep.
because my eyeballs get cold, which is problem number one. Number two is you're riding and there's like a little bit of snow in the air. You do the notorious thing called the safety squint.
Yeah.
Where you're squinting your eyes real tight, hoping to God that you don't get a freaking piece of ice in your eye.
the worst.
None of that. Absolutely. You go down the dam
And then they
behind
freeze.
Nickeldale,
Yeah.
flying down the dam. Absolutely not.
With a safety squint.
Yeah.
Safety
Yeah,
squint,
exactly.
hoping to God you don't hit the hole that's at the
Yeah.
bottom that we've all seen, right? So any kind of glasses, guys. I mean, glasses are a multi-purpose thing. You can have them in the summer and the winter. I mean, we recommend using them often. However, making sure you have a glass that has an interchangeable lens that comes with, ideally, a clear.
Yeah.
So, like, there's yellows, there's rose colors, that kind of stuff's fine too. I prefer a clear. This is one specifically from Smith. We do a lot of work. I mean, Smith does work with the circus, so. We're huge advocates. We wouldn't be riding their stuff if we didn't like it. The nice thing about this one specifically, it's called the Wildcat. It uses the same profile as a goggle. So it's super huge, the same
Yeah.
way a goggle is. We do see some people that use goggles in the winter. They use them for riding. I just find that if you're using a goggle, it heats up too much. It heats up too much in fogs.
Yeah, if you're going to use a goggle, like I used to use them a little bit. I found
So just to be clear, you would use goggles because you don't think those are lame, but you won't wear pogies.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, just
How do you
fun.
get the goggles to fit properly on like a bike helmet?
Yeah, that is
Well,
probably
you buy
one
an
of the-
enduro helmet.
Well, okay.
Have
Yeah.
you seen enduro racers?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you so basically no, but what I would recommend is a mountain biking goggle instead of a ski goggle because they are built differently to dump more heat
Yeah, that makes
because they
sense.
ride them in the summer.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna use goggles, like a clear mountain bike downhill goggle is way better than your ski goggles repurposed just because of the heat dumping capability.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
But-
so. That would be my.
but
That's
this
like
is
my
number one.
Yeah, my number one. Like, I wear these all the time. I have a couple different sets, but these are my number one. And just anything over your eyes. I mean, I even get guys that wear safety glasses. It doesn't matter, and you will find that you might heat up once you stop riding. I take them off my face to kind of give them a couple shakes, put them back on my face, start riding again, and it unfogs. So the only time that's a little weird is if it fogs up. And then it freezes,
Yeah.
and then you're kind of like
Yeah.
scratching, like So, glasses, guys, a big one, and a good one too. If you're thinking of anyone for Christmas, something that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
clear lens.
Beavers, you got a last one for me there? Or?
I got a variety of tools. I think tools are
Tools.
just super important, right? So whether that's a
You're just super prepared beavers.
Oh, I
like,
love-
just like
yeah,
utilitarian beavers, like Indiana Jones over there. They got a rope.
yeah, I don't want to be unprepared out there, especially in the wintertime. But even the summer, I'm like, I don't know what it is. It's my background in having to bail people out of bad situations.
Yeah.
I got some buddies that are like notorious for just like always being like in trouble. It's not good. Anyway, so if they're watching this podcast, they'll probably be offended now. Anyways, yeah, so like a multi-tool kind of deal, where you have like a variety of options, lots of different Allen keys, chain brake, like whatever else, brake separators, different screwdrivers. It all kind of comes in handy in various points. So whatever one you like to use, just make sure it's got enough like stuff for your particular bike. So.
Yeah, don't be the guy who shows up to the ride expecting everyone else to
Yeah.
have shit for your bike.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the
That
worst.
drives me bananas. As the guy who, generally speaking, runs around fixing
Has the
everyone's
stuff.
bike,
Yeah.
I expect you to have the stuff for your bike.
Yeah.
You should have a pump for your tires. You should have a
Mm.
tube for your tires. You shouldn't have a tube for your other bike. You shouldn't have a
Yeah.
tube for your friend's bike. You should have a tube for your bike in the right tire size. And you should have the tools to tighten the stuff on your bike. Your stuff for your bike.
Yeah, for sure.
It sounds like I'm crazy, going crazy, but it's like the amount of times I like go up to someone and I'm like, "Hey, dude, sweet. So like, you need a flat. You got a flat on this ride? It's no problem, dude. I'll give you a hand. I'll change your flat for you." And they're like, "Well, I bought a 24-inch tube." I know. Well, you got a 29-inch bike, dude.
Yeah.
It's not gonna
And they're
work.
like, "But it's lighter." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I gotta put it in." Like, I'm not stoked now, dude. So bring the right stuff for your bike. Don't rely on everyone else's. No one likes the dude that's always yelling in the back. Who's got a pump? No, none of that.
Yeah, for sure. Which is the other option, bring a nice pump, high volume. When you're mountain biking, it's fine to bring the smallest pump available if you really want to go that light, because sometimes you do.
We all do.
But in fat biking, your tire is a hell of a lot bigger, man. Like, just bring something
Yeah,
that can pull a little bit of
This
air.
tiny little pump we all use with the fat bike tire. It'd be 950 pumps,
You'd
one
be like-
PSI.
You'd be like so cold and just miserable
Might as well
by the
breathe
end.
into it.
Yeah, you just never want to be there again. So yeah,
No,
bring
no.
something with a little more volume. Obviously, not bringing like your floor plump, but like bring something
Yeah. I
decent.
find the one-up pumps pretty good for that too. You can get the one-up pumps. I think a lot of these guys
Yeah, yeah.
might passing me that one, Beavers.
Yeah, for sure.
I think this guy, yeah, it does. So if you look on the bottom of this pump here, and you probably can't see it from this, and you probably can't hear it, but there's an HP and an HV switch. And you'll find Crankbros pumps have that, Blackburn pumps have that. HP, high pressure, HV, high volume. So when you go to the HV side, it'll put more pumps per push. And if you go to the HP side, it'll put a smaller pump with a lot more pressure. So if you are using this pump both for the summer and the winter, maybe for your road bike or even for your mountain bike and you want to run a higher pressure, it's easier if you do have a switch.
Yeah.
If you have a way to alternate between a higher pressure and higher volume, but making sure you have a pump within a volume to pump it. That
Good plan.
makes a lot of
Good
sense.
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the last few items I think that I set aside.
That's pretty good. So I think that's it. We have a couple honorable mentions though. Evan, you had one you had mentioned.
Yeah. Well, to piggyback then on the pumps is like a low pressure digital tire gauge, just like a pressure gauge to, because I mean, pressure is a lot more important.
It's everything.
In fat
huge.
biking for
It's
sure.
everything. It's the whole game.
Yeah. Yeah, like the first year I rode, I had no idea what I was doing with pressures, and I just wanted like zero rolling resistance. So I filled them like right full, and then couldn't figure out why I wasn't going anywhere, just sinking through the snow. I read a little bit about it, and I let some air out of my tires, and that made a huge difference.
Well, even a couple weeks ago, so we went out and we rode, and it was pretty icy. We were on our fat bikes, and a couple of the guys were on studs, but they were on like 12 psi. So the studs weren't doing anything because you had so much pressure on the tires that you couldn't. So knowing that, but getting comfortable with the lower pressures and knowing your pressure, I think makes a lot of difference.
Yeah.
People are starting to get used to that with maybe shock pumps and stuff like that. But the interesting thing about a fat bike is you're talking below 10 psi.
Yeah.
And a lot of pumps, like whether it be a hand pump,
good then.
that pump that you brought up here doesn't even have a gauge, but if it did have a gauge, it starts at 10 psi.
Yeah.
So you can't read the difference between 4 psi and 8 psi.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and-
I have a nice like analog one, not digital.
Nice.
It like does like basically up to 12 or 15, I think 15 maybe.
Yeah, so that'll
That's
do the
ideal.
trick too.
Yeah.
But definitely not those ones that you stick on, and then a little thing pops out the back end.
No,
Yeah,
those,
not that
oh god,
one.
no,
No, not
That
those.
is, no, not those. No, that's not accurate enough.
No.
But yeah, making sure you have a gauge, I think, is a huge thing. We're gonna have a whole podcast, guys, on air pressures. That'll become. But I think that does make a huge difference if you can find one. I mean, we're sold out now. But we'll
Yeah,
get
that's why I
more
don't
at
have
some
it.
point. I know. I got another good one here. I got chain lube. Chain lube. This guy here specifically, this is the muck off chain lube. This is the minus 50. Now, it's been a funny little like hotly debated thing at the shop recently. Wet lube versus dry lube for winter. You have to use wet lube. Just so you guys know.
I would think so
yeah,
because
I would
like
think
if
so,
you
too.
if you use dry lube, like that's just
Somehow
wash
or-
right off, right?
Somehow or another, we've gotten into multiple conversations in the most recent times where people were going back and forth on wet lube
Yeah.
and dry lube. And snow is
It's wet.
wet. It is literally cold
I didn't
water.
realize we were debating this.
It is literally. I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone, but it's literally frozen water.
Yeah.
So you will need a wet lube.
Right.
Now, this lube specifically, Muck-Off is the only company really doing this. It's a chain lube that doesn't freeze. Now, I haven't personally experienced chain lube exactly freezing, but I'm also not going for super long rides. I'm thinking like lake riding.
Right.
If you're going lake riding, stuff like that. And I
Big
mean,
winds.
if I'm being honest, if you're buying a chain lube for your bike, this is probably a better idea than just a generic wet lube because it's tested for cold conditions. But regardless, a wet chain lube on your fat bike, chain lube is something you have to be incredibly important with just because there's so much shit on the road this time of year, right?
Oh,
You're
yeah,
riding on
for
the
sure.
road, you're going over stuff, being vigilant about how much care you do for your bike, being vigilant about lubing your chain, properly going through it. Good gift, good Christmas gift, super little stocking stuffer. Yeah,
I mean,
chain lube.
well, really, like whether you're like on a solo mission or a group ride, like you don't want to be the guy with the squeaky chain.
No,
right?
you don't. You don't.
Like
you don't.
you get made fun of pretty good for that. So
Yeah, no. They definitely get made fun of way more than pogies.
oh, for sure, like
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So other do you have an honorable mention there, Beavers, or did we exhaust all your?
Whew. I think we addressed most of them. Maybe just like because we are riding at night, and we kind of had this chat earlier in the day. A very like a blinking red light on your back is a good idea
It's
when
a
you're
super good
riding
idea.
at night. I know most of us we're like, oh, we don't need that, especially if you're riding mountain bike trails in the summer. You don't wear that, right?
No.
But because oftentimes we're riding to and from a trailhead, we're on a road for a short amount of time. It's winter. People just braking is bad. Sometimes
Yeah.
drivers are bad in winter. Wonder if that's news for anyone. It's a good idea to have a
Well, even
a
just
red light.
reflective
Yeah,
reflective
something.
clothing,
Yeah.
right? Having
Mhm.
something
Yeah,
reflective.
something. Yeah.
You'll notice that a lot of fat bike specific jackets, even sometimes Gators, Pogies, stuff like that,
Yeah.
will have reflective hits on it.
piping.
The more amount of reflective hits you have on your bike, the
Yeah.
better, right? Like even just if someone's behind you and they've got a headlamp, they can see where you're at, right?
Sure.
You've got some kind of point of reference.
Yeah. So I'd say that's another good little one that's not really expensive but worth having.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess that's all of our ideas, guys.
Yeah.
Anything to add after that, or are we good?
I'm pretty good with that.
Awesome.
I think.
Cool.
Sounds a good day.
I think that's it, guys.
I was just going to say, like you had mentioned, I heard you talking to somebody not that long ago about how fat biking isn't so much about all the stuff for the bike, it's about the accessories. And I think that that's probably, like, it's really true. Like, you don't have to have a super high-end bike for fat biking, but you definitely need to have good accessories like your gloves.
Your gloves matters way more than your derailleur.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's all about how you dress. It's all about how you're prepared, right?
Yeah.
It's about making the right... Because at the end of the day, fat biking itself is a pretty funny experience. It's not going to be... If you're just getting out there for the first time, it's not going to be quite what you might be expecting it to be. It's going to be kind of goofy. It's going to be kind of funny.
Yeah.
How well your bike shifts and how well your bike might corner in a certain spot doesn't matter nearly as much as making sure you're comfortable. Making sure you are ready for those conditions. Making sure that you're prepared, because if you get a flat, everything's cold and everything's kind of awful. The conditions are kind of awful. Yeah. So if you're out there, you get a flat, you're not having a good time. If you're out there and you get cold, you're not having a good time. If you get hungry or you get wet or any of that kind of stuff, you're not having any fun. So making sure that you're prepared, like your body, and then the accessories you have, you're absolutely right, is so much more important than having an exterior derailleur, right? Like that's not where. So make sure, I mean, guys, I guess that adds to it when you're purchasing your bike, when you're looking at your bikes. I mean, this year, get any bike you can, but
just anything at all.
But leave that room in your budget, because at the end of the day, like, if you're debating between $1,000 and a $3,000 fat bike, and your budget's like $3,000, you should probably get a $1,000 bike and just make sure you budget enough money to get the accessories you're going to need and leave a buffer zone, because you're going to need some stuff. You're going to need the layers. You're going to need the accessories. You're going to need these things we're talking about today.
Oh, to enjoy it, for sure. It's going to
Absolutely.
make all the difference, definitely, of your ride. Yeah.
So I guess that's it, guys. I guess that's it for Sessions with Sessions podcast number 28. So guys, as always, make sure you guys make sure you guys subscribe on the YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on the audio, make sure you guys check out the YouTube channel. It's not half bad. It's getting better every time, until Beavis breaks all the lights. But as long as that doesn't happen,
They're all in the back.
We'll keep getting better.
They weren't front lights. It's all good.
Yeah, exactly. And then beyond that, guys, make sure you guys follow us on Instagram and Facebook, so that when we are going to be doing a podcast, we can post up there and you can ask questions. We will answer them on the podcast. We always love getting questions from you guys in comments, and you can also comment on the YouTube channels and things like that as well. But I guess that's it, guys, from everyone over here. Have fun with that.
All right.
Yeah, that was a good one.